The death of the neutral zone trap. The neutral zone trap was hockey's most suffocating defensive system, and it nearly killed the sport. During the dead puck era from 1997 to 2004, this strategy dominated the NHL and turned games into defensive slogs that fans hated watching. The classic neutral zone trap deployed 4 defenders in the neutral zone like a wall. One forechecker would pressure the puck carrier in the offensive zone, forcing them toward the boards. 2 defensive wingers positioned near the red line would seal off the sideboards, and 2 defensemen waited at their own blue line as the last line of defense. The New Jersey Devils under Jacques Lemaire perfected this system and used it to upset the heavily favored Detroit Red Wings in the 1995 Stanley Cup Finals. The strategy was brilliant in its simplicity: clog the neutral zone, force turnovers, and prevent any offensive flow whatsoever. But here's the dirty secret that made the trap actually work: clutching and grabbing. The system required defenders to hook, hold, and interfere with faster, more skilled players. Referees allowed this obstruction to happen, which meant the 4-man wall could reset consistently. Without this physical interference, the trap would have crumbled immediately against speed. The NHL didn't just phase out the trap, they executed it. After the 2004 to 2005 lockout, the league implemented rule changes specifically designed to kill defensive systems that were strangling offense. The first killer was the strict enforcement of obstruction penalties. Dubbed the Gretzky Rule, referees were ordered to call every hook, hold, and interference. This eliminated the physical stalling that allowed the trap to maintain its density. Teams that tried to use the trap now gave up constant power plays, making the system prohibitively risky. The second surgical strike was eliminating the 2-line pass restriction. Previously, teams couldn't pass across the center red line, which forced them to navigate through the trap using short, controlled passes. Once long stretch passes were allowed, offensive teams could simply bypass the 4 defenders clustered in the neutral zone entirely. The core defensive deployment became functionally obsolete overnight. The third change was the trapezoid behind the net, which restricted where goalies could handle the puck. This prevented defensive goalies from acting as extra defensemen to receive dump-ins and execute quick transitions. League-wide scoring had dropped to 2.57 goals per game in 2003-04. The trap had to die for hockey to survive as entertainment. The specific pre-2005 trap is extinct, but the objective of controlling the neutral zone persists through modern forechecking. Systems like the retreating 1-2-2 neutral zone forecheck still aim to clog the neutral zone, but they do it through angling, steering, and containment rather than obstruction. Modern teams force opponents to the boards and limit passing lanes without resorting to the hooking and holding that defined the original trap. The extinction of the enforcer. The enforcer was hockey's hired muscle, a player whose entire job was fighting, intimidating opponents, and protecting star players. These weren't skilled hockey players. They were specialists in violence, and teams paid them specifically for penalty minutes and fight counts. During the 1980s, fighting reached its absolute peak at 1.3 fights per game in 1987. Managers viewed enforcers as essential to the culture of the game. The logic was simple: if you had a $10 million superstar, you needed a tough guy to make sure nobody took liberties with him. Players like Bob Probert, Ty Domi, and Derek Boogaard built entire careers on their fists. They couldn't score, couldn't pass, and often couldn't skate particularly well, but they could fight, and that was enough to earn an NHL paycheck. The 2005 collective bargaining agreement introduced a hard salary cap, and that single change made the dedicated enforcer financially indefensible. Under a cap system, every roster spot and every dollar must provide maximum return on investment. The problem with enforcers was simple: they were single-purpose players who contributed almost nothing offensively. The roster spot occupied by an enforcer, regardless of salary, represented an opportunity cost. General managers quickly realized that cap space was better spent on versatile two-way forwards who could provide physical play, aggressive forechecking, and secondary scoring. The salary cap weaponized roster spots. Multi-skilled adaptability became mandatory. The enforcer role couldn't survive in this new economic reality. The financial calculation against enforcers was reinforced by a growing awareness of the role's devastating human toll. A comprehensive study spanning 6,039 NHL players from 1967 to 2022 found that enforcers, defined as players with 50 or more career fights, died approximately 10 years earlier on average compared to age-matched controls. The study established a strong link between the enforcer role and premature death caused by suicide and drug overdose, conditions frequently associated with chronic traumatic encephalopathy, CTE, from repeated head trauma. The tragic deaths of Bob Probert and Derek Boogaard forced the league to confront reality. Its culture of violence was destroying its toughest players. While fighting wasn't banned, the NHL implemented addiction counselors on every team and mandatory educational programs about prescription drug abuse. The statistics confirm the role's collapse. Fighting has fallen from 1.3 fights per game in 1987 to just 0.19 fights per game today. The dedicated enforcer is extinct. Physical play still exists, but it's now absorbed by multi-purpose players who can actually contribute to winning hockey. The death of dump and chase as a primary system. For decades, the dump and chase was considered smart, low-risk hockey. Launch the puck hard into the offensive zone, send 3 forwards in pursuit, win the battle in the corners, and establish offensive zone time. Coaches believed it was always better to lose possession deep in the offensive zone than risk a neutral zone turnover that could lead to an odd man rush against. The traditional dump and chase system was built on defensive risk mitigation. Teams would fire the puck around the boards or loft it high into the corner, then send aggressive forecheckers to win possession through physical battles. It was frequently used against opposing defenses that clogged the blue line, offering no clear path for controlled entry. Teams like the New York Islanders prioritized this approach to minimize neutral zone turnovers. The logic seemed sound. Even if you only recovered the puck 57% of the time, at least you weren't giving up dangerous counterattacks. The statistical revolution proved that the low risk benefit didn't justify the low offensive return. Advanced analytics established a fundamental principle. Controlled entries, carrying or passing the puck across the blue line, generate more than twice as much offense as dump and chase. While teams might successfully recover the puck on roughly 57% of dump-ins, the quality of scoring opportunities generated from these corner battles was significantly lower than those created from controlled entries. Basing an entire system on high-volume dumping was revealed to be statistically inefficient and detrimental to maximizing offensive potential. Furthermore, constant dumping and board battles slowed the game immensely, reducing hockey from the fastest game on earth to a series of physical skirmishes in the corners. The death of dump and chase as a primary system was accelerated by two major developments. First, modern defensemen became faster and more athletic after the 2005 rule changes emphasized skating and puck skills. These defensemen could win the race to the corner and execute clean zone exits or immediate transitions. The dump-in often became free possession for the defense, bypassing the forecheck entirely. Second, modern goalies evolved into elite sweepers who aggressively leave the net to claim pucks rimmed around the boards. This proactive puck handling neutralizes the forecheck before it can establish corner pressure, frequently turning the dump-in into an immediate counterattack. The high-volume, low-percentage dump-and-chase system is extinct. However, the maneuver has survived by transforming into a highly refined tactic of risk management. It's now used situationally when players are under intense pressure and cannot execute a clean carry-in, or when a line change is required. When used today, the goal isn't merely to gain the zone, but to force pressure deep, tire the opposing defense, and lower the overall neutral zone turnover rate. It's a safe positional reset, not a primary offensive strategy. The end of stand-up goaltending. For the first half-century of NHL history, goalies stayed on their feet. The stand-up style demanded that goaltenders remain upright as much as possible, relying on reaction time, hand speed, and superior positional reading. Early league rules even penalized goalies for falling to the ice to make a save. The fundamental weakness of stand-up goaltending was its inability to consistently cover the low areas of the net. The space between the goalie's pads and the ice, particularly when moving laterally, left the low corners and five-hole vulnerable to quick, accurate shots. As shooter skill increased, specifically the speed and precision with which players could target low corners, this vulnerability became too easily exploited. The stand-up style failed the efficiency test against evolving offensive methods. The stand-up style was rendered obsolete by the butterfly technique, popularized and perfected by Patrick Roy and coach François Allaire beginning in the late 1980s. This revolutionary method embraced dropping to the knees to use the full surface area of the pads to seal the bottom of the net. The butterfly achieved overwhelming tactical superiority because it addressed the critical structural flaw of stand-up goaltending. By creating a tight seal on the ice, the butterfly maximized pad coverage against the high volume of low shots favored by modern attackers. The technique was supported by parallel equipment evolution, particularly the development of lighter, stiffer, and flatter leg pads that optimize the slide motion and rebound control necessary for the butterfly. Pure stand-up goaltending is completely extinct at the elite level. The last goalies to utilize significant elements of the stand-up approach, such as Martin Brodeur and Tim Thomas, were highly athletic hybrid goalies who still relied on the butterfly as their foundational save selection. The pure style, which emphasized reflexes over structured net coverage, officially ceased to be viable in the mid-1990s as the pace of the game accelerated and technique took precedence over pure athleticism. The death of static power play formations. Before the modern era of specialization, NHL power play units relied on predictable, static alignments, most notably the umbrella and the overload formations. These systems were standard for decades, but their rigidity made them easy to defend once penalty kill units figured them out. The umbrella was defined by its high perimeter focus, often stationing two defensemen at the point and attempting to generate offense through screened shots from the top of the zone. The overload concentrated attackers on one side of the ice to cycle the puck and maintain possession in a confined area. The failure of these systems was rooted in their predictability. Opposing penalty kill units, which usually deployed a box formation, found it simple to counter these static setups. The defense could easily anticipate the puck's movement and focus on collapsing lanes and denying passing seams. The contemporary standard in the NHL is the dynamic 1-3-1 formation. This system uses a single point man, two players on the half walls, a net front presence, and the critical bumper player positioned in the high slot. 1-3-1 is superior because it offers versatility and rotational movement, minimizing predictability and maximizing passing options to create confusion among penalty killers. Teams like the Washington Capitals demonstrated how the 1-3-1 uses a push-pull mechanism, forcing the penalty kill to commit bodies to one threat, then rapidly moving the puck to an exposed specialist like Alex Ovechkin in his one-timer position. The bumper player, acting as the passing hub in the high slot, ensures offensive momentum is maintained through the most dangerous area of the ice. This systematic movement means the formation is never stagnant, demanding constant decision-making and preventing the penalty kill from settling into a comfortable shell. The umbrella and overload systems died because modern penalty killers adapted to their rigidity. Elite penalty kill units today employ hybrid, fluid structures like the 1-2-1 formation that can quickly transition between zonal and man-oriented pressure. Against the static formations of the past, these modern penalty kills easily anticipated the next pass or shot. The static nature of traditional formations was exposed as bland and predictable. In the high-skill post-2005 NHL, the demand is for creativity and non-stagnant systems that allow players to read and exploit shifting pockets of space, an element the 1-3-1 delivers far more effectively than its rigid predecessors. The decline in effectiveness of static systems is partially demonstrated by the obsolescence of Ken Hitchcock's historical 100 rule, the idea that power play percentage plus penalty kill percentage should equal 100%. This benchmark became irrelevant after the 2005 rule changes. The increase in obstruction calls led to more frequent and easier power plays, allowing modern elite teams to operate well over the 100 benchmark, with some teams currently exceeding 110%.